30 videos in 30 days, day 4. Today's question comes from Instagram, from Elevation Coaching, and she asks, how do you make the leap from I feel like it's time to move on to the confidence in making the decision without taking years to do so? I think that, number one, as someone who has a tendency to procrastinate and loves to put off things that I don't really want to do or feel uncomfortable or doing or feel like, oh God, I just don't want to deal with that right now, I have a real tendency to procrastinate, so I love this question. I think oftentimes in life, well, I think the first thing actually, I want to back up a bit. I think the first thing to acknowledge is the sheer fact that we're asking the question, is it time to move on, or is this complete, or is this done, or am I over it, whatever form that question takes. I think that in and of itself is evidence that you're already kind of doing it. I think the process of uncoupling or separating, excuse me, or moving on begins with the question, is it time? And I feel like that's sort of the realization that it's time to sort of starting to bubble up within us, and we start to get that inkling of like, oh, something's shifted here. I think it might be time to proceed and move on in a new direction. In terms of the confidence to make the decision, sometimes you may not feel confident doing it. Sometimes you may just do it anxiously and nervously and with uncertainty. Sometimes you just gotta do it and trust that your intuition or your inkling or your feeling that it's time to move on is correct. You know, I think a lot about, my relationship with exercise. And, oftentimes I keep myself fit and I like to work out because I know it's good for me and I like the way I feel afterwards, definitely. Sometimes I have a really great workout and I love the whole experience of it. But more often than not, I kind of drag my feet and I don't want to do it. So what I'm always looking for is, the motivation to do it or the inspiration to do it. And sometimes the motivation or the inspiration doesn't show up until I'm kind of halfway through my workout. Sometimes it doesn't show up at all, and the best thing I get out of it is the fact that it's over, and that is my reason for celebration. So when we're faced with decisions in our life, when we feel like change needs to be made and we're not sure if it's time or we're not sure if we're ready, if we're ready, I think one thing to remember is that when something is for us, nothing can keep it away. Wild horses couldn't keep it away. And when something is not for us, or when something is complete and it's time to move on, encasing it in concrete and bolting it to the ground is not going to make it stay put. So I think the key is to tune into your own sense of knowing, to really trust what you're feeling and begin to move in the direction of moving on, begin to consider and ask the questions and become curious about how that can happen. And sometimes you just got to rip the Band-Aid off. Sometimes you just got to trust that it's time to do it. And the other thing that I also know to be true is that the universe is self-correcting. So it's like GPS. If I go left when I should have gone right, eventually it'll get me back there, recalculating, and it'll bring me back around. So I think that just because we don't have confidence and just because we can't stand tall and say, yes, I'm ready, let's do it. Sometimes it's, no, I don't want to do it. I know it's time, but I don't want to. I don't know if I'm ready, but I'm just going to do it anyway. So sometimes we just have to take a deep breath, close our eyes, and jump. I hope this question helps. Thank you for asking it.